You want to start it off?
Oh, I'm Lindsay,
I'm Sean.
and this is Crossing the Aisle.
Okay, is that it? That's what you
well,
got?
well, yeah. I mean, we've got some hot topics to talk about, and it's been an interesting day.
Yeah, it is. And we'll get into the lieutenant governor. I think as most the entire country seems to have noticed has passed out in the Senate chamber. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, in Mississippi, of course, our lieutenant governor is kind of head over the Senate, and he was there this morning running the Senate as usual, and all of a sudden, it wasn't so usual as he passed out,
Right.
which was
Okay.
very scary for a lot of those senators I know.
Yeah, I saw that video. It was pretty horrible. I mean, he looked like
Yeah.
he didn't hit the podium, but he hit like a table with his
Yeah,
head.
and it almost looked like his head bounced off
Yeah.
in a way that just looked really scary. It was really painful, to be honest. And I know that they were pretty scared. Josh Harkins, Senator Harkins, immediately jumped in and moved that they go into recess. They cut the cameras, and I told you this earlier. I still don't really know how I feel about that. I'm sure he's humiliated and embarrassed and doesn't want this video out.
Yeah.
And it's trending on Twitter. I think there's the last time I looked several hours ago, it was over 18,000 posts
Yeah.
about this incident. So it's called quite the national attention today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Lieutenant Governor passes out in chamber. That's kind of big news,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
somebody that's next in line to possibly be the next
Well,
governor.
I don't know about all that.
Well, I mean, but he is probably the front runner, I think, at this point. I mean, I would say he is.
I would say
I mean,
not.
who else would be the front runner?
Oh, I could think of many people that would I believe would get more votes than
Well,
Dilbert.
I'm just saying, I know what you believe, but I think that most people consider him probably to be the front runner.
Well, if they did, they don't now.
Well, no, they don't now at all, I don't think. But I think what I'm saying is I think that he's obviously, perceived to be the front runner.
Really? You
Yeah,
really think that?
absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
100%.
I don't know any Republicans that consider him to be the front runner.
I
To be
mean, the
honest.
ones I've talked to are who else would they consider to be the front runner?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be quite a competitive.
But
Governor's
whoever Delbert prior to today's incident, would you think?
Well, I guess it really depends on who ends up running. I know there have been rumors of Andy Gibson, rumors of Shad White. I think he's kind of pretty much said he's going to run. Lynn Fitch, who has brought notoriety to Mississippi, especially in the overturning of Roe. I think there were some contenders, definitely.
I mean, I agree. There's contenders for sure, and I'm not saying he was going to win, but I think he's generally considered to be the number one candidate.
Well, we also heard
I
Tommy
mean-
Duff, who's pretty much a bajillionaire.
But we don't know that he's even going to get in. That's the whole rumor around the whole state. Is like, is he going to run? Is he not going to run?
I keep talking, about Gerard because I believe that Gerard has a great business mind, and I think that he could really kind of turn the
tell
state
who
around.
you mean. For people that listen.
Yes, I'm sorry, Gerard Gibbert.
Okay.
And I
When
know
he
that
does
he's-
middays on Super Talk, if everybody doesn't know.
yeah, I know he's toyed with the idea of running for higher office or running for office, and I think, in my opinion, I know this might not be everyone's opinion, but in my opinion, I think that he could be a kind of a fresh of breath air for the state of Mississippi and kind of take these issues on in a different light, in a different way than what's been done in the past.
Well, I mean, I agree. There's a lot of good contenders. I think Gerard Gerbert's a great contender. I think that Shad White is a good contender. I think there's many people out there. I don't agree. I think the general consensus around the politicos in the state is that they don't want Lynn Finch to be governor. I think that's what I hear from everybody. And so
I'm not going to complain about her.
But I mean, that's what I hear from everybody, and I think that's just kind of the consensus of what's gone on with the AG's office. But I think there's some good candidates, but I think he was considered to be the number one front runner. Not I mean, Jeb Bush was considered to be the front runner. Now Donald Trump once. I mean,
See,
anything could
I've
happen.
never gotten that feel from anyone that he would as okay.
Yeah,
so
but
here's
just
the
because you're
deal.
biased,
No,
so
no, but
you
maybe
are.
I am, and
You
I am.
are.
I'm not a fan. I'm obviously
And that's
not
why.
a
That's what I'm
Delbert
saying.
fan.
Yeah.
I believe he is a Democrat. I believe he's held us back from doing a lot of the things that I have been an advocate for. But I also know that he is 77 years old, and I think that that's what showed today is that he's not capable.
Right. Right, and I understand all those reasons you don't like him. I'm just saying, like, if you take yourself out of the way you feel about it,
I still don't know many
you know,
Republicans that think him to be the front
most ones
runner.
I've talked to consider that he was definitely the
Yeah, but
front
you
runner.
talk to
A lot of people, and that's what they say. I mean, I think he was definitely had the ability to raise money more than anybody else, except for Tommy Duff. And what I heard is him and Duff are good buddies, and Duff would not run if he ran.
Yeah, well, I've also heard that was not true.
Well, see, there you go.
You hear all kinds of things. Just like I'm sure the rumors flying around the Capitol today after this incident were all over the place.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got a 77-year-old man that passes out in the chamber. I mean, that's a pretty significant event, I would think. And his excuse for that, and maybe it's true, and I don't know, is that he was dehydrated. And I mean, it's not the summer, but
So Sean,
I mean, I just kind of thought of, like, it's 25 degrees right now. It's like
it is really cold right now.
It's really cold, and maybe he was out running. I mean, you get dehydrated in the cold. I'm kidding, but but that was his excuse, and I think that I would assume, like, I'm not a medical professional.
Drink more water, Mississippi.
All right, stay classy, San Diego.
Unless you're in Jackson, then be careful with that.
Yeah, well, that's true. What did he? What do you get when you? Is it an MRI to check for a concussion? I don't even know what it is. What is it called?
A CT or a CT scan. I think he at least needed that to rule out any sort of brain bleed. We all saw his head hit so hard, and I know I texted you this, and I said I'm torn. I know they don't want this video out there, and I get it. I'm sure he's embarrassed and humiliated. And it was scary for so many of those senators. But is it the public's right to know that, like, maybe he's not in the best health condition?
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of people make posts on Twitter and whatnot, like local politicos and stuff, talking about how don't show this. I'm like, well, that's kind of what people said about Joe Biden that were on the Democratic side. They were trying not to show this stuff, and I think that you run for elected office. You get elected, and you are you make very responsible, serious decisions every day that affect people's lives. The public, you've waived your right to your health at that point, to the public disclosure of that. So I think it needs to be out there. People need to see it and make their own judgments on it.
Isn't that something that they talked about a good bit before Biden left office, was the fact that he had so many about mental evaluations, and those had to be disclosed as sitting president, or as someone in higher office. I don't know what our laws are in Mississippi concerning that, or if we have any.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I just know that in terms of the presidency, it's been like a matter of course to release your physical, like your results of your physicals and stuff like that. I don't know that there's anything in the law that requires it. I'd have to check that. I don't really know. I don't know. Certainly Mississippi, I don't know that Delbert's required to do it. I think that's why he came out with a statement this afternoon or this evening so quickly that said, I'm dehydrated. And but
he didn't go. He refused to go to the hospital. Like, he didn't go to the hospital.
Yeah, I did not. Oh, did not.
He did not.
Okay. I mean, and if anybody watches the video, the kind of hit that Lindsay just mentioned that he took to the head is something that I think if he was playing in the NFL, they would require him to go to the tent and check himself out. So I don't know how he doesn't do that. That kind of blow to the head. It seems, especially, I mean, his age, it just would have been. Regardless, though, and I hope his condition is fine. And
and I want to say that, like, he's obviously not my favorite person, but I would never wish ill on anyone, and I hope and pray that he's doing well tonight.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, regardless of, like, let's say he could, again, he came out with the dehydration story. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But regardless, perception sometimes is reality. And what you have here is now the public saw that, and I don't see how you mount a campaign for governor after that. I think it's very it's kind of like a Joe Biden debate moment almost, that bad kind of a situation. I think he can play it off like I was dehydrated or whatever, and maybe that's true.
But the majority of Mississippians are going to look at that and think he is not in good health. He's not fit to be governor of our state.
Yeah, and 2 years from now, people are going to be playing that video over and over again. I think it's over for him at this point. I think so. I think it's I think then I saw the tirade of statewide politicians saying their well wishes, which just seemed a little what's the word I'm looking like? I think anybody that's
disingenuous.
Anybody that can read kind of looked into that, like, yeah, I'm sure you guys are really upset about this.
Maybe a little disingenuous or facetious.
I thought it was a little. Yeah, I mean, I think they were all like, the king is dead, long live the king. That kind of. That's kind of the way I took it. Reading these things, so it was. It's
good to know that so many of these people that he argues with daily consider him a friend. They all called him their friend today.
Yeah, they all loved him now. It's great. Once because they're like, you're out of the way now. That's one less contender.
Now we can be friends.
Now you do have a Shad White, Lynn Fitch, Tommy Duff possibly. I still think he doesn't run.
Well, I still think Lynn Fitch may turn and pivot and run maybe for lieutenant governor.
It,
Is what I'm getting those vibes maybe.
possibly. I mean, and then you got Andy as a wild card there.
Yeah,
You never know.
I
But
mean, and there's Michael Watson.
I mean, he was going to run for lieutenant governor, though, wasn't he?
I believe so, but I've heard so many different things, and then there's just a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there that where are they going to go next? What are they gonna do next?
Yeah, I'd always heard that Watson was going to run for lieutenant governor, so I don't know. But but everything's kind of like Delbert out of the way. I mean, that's kind of like the big fish is gone. I mean, and I know people are premature. I don't think it's premature to say that. I think after that you don't recover from that, even if you recover physically. I don't think politically that you can recover from that again. And I think it's a Joe Biden moment.
What is Sean Tyndall like? What's he thinking? Do you know?
I think he had announced that he was going to run for AG.
Okay.
So,
and let's not forget Nick Bain, our friend.
If Lynn Finch didn't run for AG,
I believe he will put his name in that hat for one of these offices, and
he'd be a great AG too.
Yeah, so great contender, absolutely.
So I don't know. It's gonna get interesting. I think right now I think if Delbert's gone, like let's look at it that way. Let's assume Delbert's gone. Who do you call as the front runner?
To be honest, I'd almost say Shad.
That's who I'd say too. I'd say Shad White.
My heart tells me Gerard is a serious contender if he chooses to get involved, and the state could learn a lot and benefit a lot from him. But Shad has got
the name recognition.
Well, he's got the name recognition, but he's also got the people behind him because of the fact that he has so publicly fought for getting rid of the spending of their tax dollars. He's formed an audience around some of the issues that he's worked on that I believe will support him in the long run.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job of coming out as this man of the people kind of thing. And it's kind of funny to me. And like I like Shad. I think but he's a Ivy League educated guy, so it's kind of a dichotomy there. I think with the average Mississippian. But I think I think he'd be a good governor. And but I think he's definitely got the momentum. I'll give him that.
So funny. You've really kind of turned a.
I didn't like the book. From a prosecution perspective, I didn't. I told him that too when he was on air.
And even if you want to go there, I mean, don't ever count out Mike Hurst. I don't think he has any plans of running for governor, but when he became the chairman of the GOP, I remember the first time he spoke to us was at the Mississippi convention, the GOP convention, and I actually text him and Celeste after he finished speaking, and I said, "So when are you running for governor?" Because he's just so well spoken and he has such great ideas and he's so loved by the people. So. You never know what we might see. In years.
But again, I think I think Mike's great too. But his name recognition isn't what Shad or somebody like that is either. So you got a lot of, amongst your circles, when you guys know him, but the average Mississippi doesn't really know who he is. And I think that's not a knock against Mike. I think Mike would be a great governor. But I think it's just a reality of politics that you talk to your average Mississippian, heck, they don't even know who their a representative or senator is.
Well, yeah, and let me say, he's not said anything about.
No, I don't mean
that was all me.
Saying
you need to be our governor.
You and I were talking about this the other day. Yeah. Like I called it the courthouse bubble. Like when I was working at the DA's office, I thought, and we all thought that everybody in the community knew what we were doing. Like everybody's painting because some of it becomes in the media and these cases and all these crimes and all that stuff. Fact of the matter, when you're on the street, like nobody knew what the hell we were doing, right? But we thought we did. And I think sometimes in the political bubble, we fall into that. Like, well, everybody knows who Mike is or everybody knows who Gerard. Well, they don't, Unfortunately, great guys. Not saying
I mean, I think everyone believes vaccines are terrible, like I do.
And they don't. I mean, so like that's the thing. I think you got to kind of step out of the bubble and see where the regular person is. I think Shad's done a pretty good job of that. Where
he's reached out to the people who wouldn't normally be reached out to. I can say that. I mean, and this just from being on Clay's show, co-hosting a few days a week. Yep. He's reached out and has offered invitations. Now Mike Hurst did come on the show, and has called in to the show. But there are people such as our governor, lieutenant governor, who I think have been reached out to numerous times and have not wanted to take that route. I think because it's a different audience.
Yeah.
It's maybe what you would consider more what would you say, far right?
I wouldn't say all far. I think populist now is kind of where I think the Trump audience is you know what I mean?
But but obviously the Trump audience is the audience you want.
Yeah, that's the audience. Well, I think that's what Chad's done a good job of cultivating.
Yeah.
I think he's done a really excellent job of getting out there and cultivating the Trump.
He did come on my podcast and we talked about all the things he's done for children and schools and DEI and
Yeah, he's cultivated that base better than anybody else right now that I've seen. Now that could change. It's 2 years, but he's done a
yeah,
good
we got
job
a
of that.
while. Yeah, we
He's
still
done a
got
really
while.
good job of that. So
We'll
we'll see.
see.
I mean, it's an interesting day. Because again, Hope Delbert's good. He was
Yeah, many prayers for him tonight.
my dad's company lawyer in the '90s. I've always liked him, and I just hope he's fine. But just talking about political realities, and we're just saying out loud what everybody else in the state is saying right now. Like this race has dynamically changed by today's events.
Yeah, I can't see him having much support or backing or financial support or anything of the like after seeing what happened today. I think that there are going to be a lot of questions, and I think it would have behooved themselves to have had him go to the hospital and get a clean bill of health and give that to the public.
Yeah, I think it's something he probably needs to do. He needs to go there and like get checked out and release that information. That's a good point. He needs to do that. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking Turkish tea. This is not a shot glass. I know it probably looks like that on thing, but it's not.
He's really strange.
I have a no alcohol rule during the week. That's kind of my rule.
I don't.
No, Lindsay does not. And but anyway, but we didn't mean to talk about that tonight. That wasn't the plan because
sorry.
Of course, but you know how. I mean, plans change, right? Because of current events.
Yeah, and there's news that's that big in the state. I mean, it's trending on X. So when there's something that big nationally that happened right here, a few minutes away from us, so you got to kind of discuss it a little bit.
That was it. So anyway, that was all we're going. But we're really here to talk about Lindsay's trial. That's what we're here to talk about.
Are we calling it my trial now?
Well, it was my trial, and for anybody who doesn't know, I was an assistant DA for 10 years, and I also worked in the Attorney General's office. I was primarily like a homicide prosecutor because when you're in Hinds County, you kind of get forced to be a murder homicide prosecutor. It's not like you just like to choose it,
Like what's his name has to every time he goes on air, he can't even investigate or do his job. He's always giving a press conference to tell.
Yeah,
Chief Wade.
Yeah, it's always
it's a joke.
And so like most of my experience lies in murder, and it just felt that way because of the nature of where I worked, and it's kind of weird. Like those are the cases that I'm the most comfortable with because I know them so well. Like if you could give me I can find in any criminal case, but somebody could be like have an embezzlement. I'm like, let me look that up for a moment here. But if it's like somebody gets killed, like I just know it because I've done so much of it over the years, and for fortunately or unfortunately, it's my therapist probably is happy because it's paid for his summer home. But anyway, so we went. So I was I do some part-time public defender work, and aside of my private practice, I take some appointed cases, and this is one of them I had. We're not going to name any names to really get into the factual stuff about it because it's because of what happened, and but
it's not over.
It's not over yet, and so we can't talk too much about that. But we did, and Lindsay works for me kind of part-time-ish, and so she
best thing he ever did.
Yeah, so she answers the phones and sets my count. Well, when she remembers to calendar things.
Would you stop it? It was on the calendar. It just wasn't on the right time.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so but she agreed to help me out with this trial, and the judge was real nice enough to let her sit at counsel table, which not everybody gets to do if you're not a lawyer. So that was kind of cool.
And I'm like a big fan of that judge too. I kind of was like, I was
Judge Peters.
fangirling.
We could say Judge Peterson, Faye Peterson, and we.
So if you don't know who that is, if you paid attention to the Polo trials, both of them, or the St. Patty's Day murder trial, that's Judge Faye Peterson, and I'm like a big fan. And so I was kind of fangirling over her a little bit. I don't think she knew that, but.
Yeah, she's kind of been a little local celebrity, I guess, not by her own volition, but just because of the trials that she's had there in that courtroom that have been widely publicized. Like again, the Polo trial, Lindsay just mentioned, in the St. Patty's Day murder trial. This one didn't get any press, so that was good, fine with me, But
I would have loved it.
We whatchamacallit, yeah, and so we went there, we tried it. It was a capital murder case, and we went in there and tried it. And so Lindsay got to see the whole process of how that works. How evidence is presented, how you make arguments to the jury, how you fight for indigent clients is what kind of that part. It's people that can't afford an attorney, and generally a lot of times when somebody's charged with murder or capital murder, they can't. It's not like OJ where everybody can
Right.
So so we got to do it. So what did you it's there's not really a whole lot for me to say because I've done it so much, but what did you think about the process as someone who's not a lawyer doing it?
Obviously, I became extremely protective. Like my mama bear nature came out in a big way, and I became very protective of our client. I do believe he's innocent, and I think I showed that.
Yeah, she did.
I don't know that you were
She's,
happy with me some of the time.
yeah, she doesn't realize that, sometimes emotions aren't the best things when it comes to those kinds of things. But there was no stopping that. So,
Yeah,
and
but
one,
I think it's so you. There's so much that goes into it that I didn't realize the attention to detail that you need to have over and combing through the file time after time after time again, where you're constantly finding new things and being able to put that into arguing a case in front of a court where you have to have show that you can bring in this evidence or that you can
yeah,
say this. It's a lot more tedious than
yeah,
I
it's a lot of
ever expected it to be.
trials will take off years of your life. I've always said, so I'm probably gonna only live for a few more years.
Stop
Having
it.
done so many of those, but yeah, it's a lot of
Then you'll
work.
have to trade me in for a newer model.
There you go. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work, and but it's fun. I still enjoy after all these years, 20 years in now, and I still love getting in the courtroom and doing that. And even though it can be, I still get nervous. It's kind of funny if people ask like, really, after doing it so much. But one of my friends who's a longtime prosecutor, and he's about 15 years older than me, and he told me one time, he said, if you don't get nervous, you don't care, and I think that's really true.
I bet I know exactly who said that.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say his name, but and I think it's true. Like you get a little, if you really care about what you're doing, you're gonna get a little nervous because you take it seriously, and it's a lot. You got somebody's life in your hands, obviously,
Yeah.
and that's an important thing. Lindsay also got to do interesting things on. It's not just what goes on in the courtroom in terms of doing an opening argument or doing introducing evidence, cross-examining witnesses. You actually have to find your witnesses too, especially when you're doing public defender
Oh yeah,
work.
that was fun.
So Lindsay, in the mid-trial, this happens every trial. I call it like a play. Like it never goes the way you think it's going to go ever. So you have to be able to.
The night before we started. He said, "So just so you know, this is not going to go the way you think it's going to go."
Yeah, told her to try to think about her pageant days. And I was like, when you were in pageants, did anything go like according to plan when you're on the stage? She's like, no, never. I'm like, okay, this is the same thing. It never does. Like you got this whole thing set out in your mind and it never does. Like witnesses, you will have talked to a witness like 20 times and you're like, oh man, good. You're going to say this. You can say, you saw the guy that did it. You saw that guy. Yes, sir, I did. Okay. Get him on the stand. Like, did you see, and the guy, was he in this courtroom? Nah, I don't see him. But what, like, do you remember talking to me a few days ago? No, I don't remember that. Like, I mean, this happens every trial. Like, it's just the way it is. And it's also, I think, something about when somebody has to sit on that witness stand and answer questions, they get really scared. I mean, I think a lot of people now, people that do a lot don't, but a lot of people that are just never have been in that process get that way. So they're never going to say what you want them to say. And so we, during the trial, you always new witnesses pop up, and you find a new witness, and you're like, oh God, I got to find this witness during the trial. This was actually somebody we'd known before and talked to, but we actually had to serve her during the trial.
I had to serve.
Yeah, you're served. And
he wasn't allowed to, so he had to have me there.
And she was in a house in South Jackson that was
quite.
Yeah, it was a rough neighborhood, and so I'd take Lindsay, Miss Mississippi over here, and take her out to.
She had some lashes though.
Yeah. I mean, she was good. She was a good lady, actually.
Yeah, she really was. I mean, thank goodness that someone who had no reason to want to lie or to come and testify, we found someone that was willing to do that. That speaks volumes about her character.
Yeah, and then so we're interviewing her. It's raining. I think it was like last Tuesday night a week ago, and it's raining, and like we're in this like in the bad neighborhood, and all these dudes walking by, and like Lindsay's like looking around. Like, I'm like, look, we're not gonna get shot. Everything's gonna be fine. I've been out here.
I know we are in Jackson.
Yeah, I just again working in the DA's office, I'm so used to being in those neighborhoods, it doesn't really bother me. But I knew that Lindsay would be like, okay, what we could do here. So that was a little fun, and so it kind of went from there, and then
and I think that was the first time you've ever. So this was what, as a criminal defense attorney, this was your second trial?
Yeah, third. Yeah.
So still kind of new to you being on this side,
mm-hmm.
And then clearly new all the way around.
Yeah, on the other side, I got about 100 of them under my belt. Right. Yeah, that's right. And whatchamacallit. So yeah, that's
well. I'll say this: like you were able to. He literally was able to have this witness call her own self a liar.
Yeah.
On state.
Yeah. So we had this one witness who she was a cooperating co-defendant for the state, means that they made a deal with her to testify against our client. And those witnesses
our innocent client, by the way.
Yeah, they're never really great witnesses. And they're tough for the state. So I've been there before. And they made a really good plea bargain with her. and she had made statements in the past where she misrepresented things, and I just
Many things.
many things. So once I got my chance to cross examine her, I lit into her pretty good for quite a while. And at one point, I had told her, I said, you've lied so much. I mean, basically, do you expect the jury to believe anything you say? And she just kind of got quiet. I said, let's stop for a moment. Can you just tell the jury that you're a liar? And she's like, I'm a liar. I was like, I've never in 20 years of practicing law got a witness to admit that they were a liar on the stand. I texted all my lawyer buddies. I'm like, dude, this chick said she was a liar on the stand.
Because she was.
Yeah, I was like, this is the coolest thing. That was like one of my crowning achievements is to get a witness to just admit they were a liar on the stand. And when she said it, I was kind of like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, did she just say she was a fucking liar? Like, I don't know.
And it was so funny because after you cross-examined her, it was like the whole mood of the courtroom just changed. Of course, the state came back and they were able to, what do you call it after you
redirect
examination? They were able to redirect, and they didn't know what to say either.
Yeah, it was kind of tough.
Everybody was so shell shocked that you laid into her. Nobody thought you were going to do that, and the whole mood, the courtroom just shifted. And you were able to take that and use it in your closing arguments. And y'all, I just got to, brag on him for a minute. Like, the closing arguments were amazing. And I don't think he was as proud of himself.
No, I didn't think it was that good. I thought I did a poor job.
Well, no, he had really worked really hard. Stayed up really late the night before, making sure he had it all perfect. And I had read it, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. There's no way that we're not going to get a hung jury or a not guilty verdict because of the way you had put everything together to prove that they had reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
That this guy did what they said he did. And so Sean gets up there and he said, now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when we met and we picked you for the jury, which is called voir dire.
Voir dire, yeah.
And I got to sit through that process too. But he said, we told you that you would have to look at this case and judge it on a reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt.
Hold the state to their burden, which is beyond a reasonable doubt.
So the state had to prove it was not up to us to prove his innocence. It was up to them to prove him being guilty, which
beyond a reasonable doubt.
That goes back to innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And so he would make a point, and then he would say, no, does that mean there's reasonable doubt here? You bet it does. And then he'd make another point. He'd say it again. You bet it does. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, and a little can, every time I'd go, there's no physical evidence, there's no blood stains, there's no fingerprints, there's no this, there's no that. Does that create reasonable doubt? You bet it does. And I kind of just make points like that through the whole trial. The witness that she talked about was, lying constantly, admitted to me. And I said that during, closing. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I've practiced law nearly 20 years this summer, and I've cross-examined a lot of witnesses on the stand, but I ain't never seen a fucking I didn't say fucking, but that's what I wanted to say. Witness admit to me agree with me that they were a liar. That's what she did. She agreed with me. I said, "You agree with me that you're a liar?" And she said, "Yes, I'm a liar." And I'm like, you
had to get her there first. It was.
Yeah, that was after about 30 minutes of cross-examining her. Finally, I think she just wanted off the witness stand so bad.
Well, she'd already taken her deal. She was free to go.
Yeah, but she was she was just so uncomfortable. And then I think at one point she'd said. I said something to her did you and when you gave this statement and this statement to JPD, and she said, yeah, I was high.
That was a new story that we had not heard from her yet. And so now all of a sudden she's high, and
so it was quite interesting. But so that was a fun thing. And then so the jury came back and they were hung up, which means that they could not agree on a verdict. And so it was a mistrial. So that's why we can't talk about the facts or anything.
So we're gonna have to do it again.
Yeah, we're just kind of in generalities here, and see what goes from there. But it was fun. It was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, the jury selection process was quite interesting.
Yeah, right. That's
we had some names in there that were.
Yeah, we can't mention that.
Yeah, obviously we can't mention who they are.
Yeah, no.
But there were some people that I saw on the list that were going to be coming in, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, so what happens in a trial, the first part of it's called, I act like sometimes everybody knows.
Nobody knows what voir dire is.
Yeah, voir dire. Yeah, it means to speak the truth is what it's a Latin term. And that's a jury selection process. And what they do is they bring in panels of juries of 12. And you just bring in 4 panels, which is 48 jurors, and you have those to select from. And each side in a capital case, which is like a murder case, where life imprisonment is the punishment,
Yeah.
you get 12 what's called preemptory strikes. Each side does, the state and the defense. And so you can use those in any way you want, as long as you have what's called a race neutral reason. Like, you can't strike somebody because they're black or because they're white. You have to do it based on some other thing, like, they weren't paying attention, or they
We had a couple
answered,
that were sleeping.
or they were a victim of crime. We had from those that we
Yeah.
struck, and
Yeah.
you have to do that kind of thing. You can't
People that knew any of us.
or they know you, or they just this one guy I think got up and said, like, I just can't stand a crime in Jackson. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's
Yeah.
now, he was for what's called cause. That's a different kind of strike. That means that person just can't be what's called a fair and impartial
Yeah, that's what.
juror.
Yeah, he said that. He said, I don't believe I can be fair because I'm so
Mhm.
fed up with Jackson and the crime.
And in that event, you don't have to use one of your preemptory strikes on them. You can just, they were what's called for cause, because the standard to be a juror is that, can you be a fair and impartial juror? And the answer has to be yes or no. If it's no, obviously you can be
I can
stricken for
try.
cause.
I can
Yeah,
try.
I can try
You
is not. Yeah, that's not a good enough answer. Now, there's many jurors that will say that over time. They'll be like, I can try. Well, that's not it. You say yes or no. And either way depends on whether you're considered on the jury or you'll be stricken for cause. But then, of course, you have 12 strikes. So I think we only use like 11 of ours or so, and they
I
use.
think we used all 12.
Do we use all 12?
I think so.
And
But
they
we didn't get to the last.
we need the last row. So we had enough to go forward, and it was a very rainy week, and it was the Hinds County Courthouse needs an air conditioning repair person.
And someone to stop all the water from coming in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it started dripping right next to my chair, so I had to kind of move to the other end of the
Mhm.
table. And of course, yes, it was very hot in there. Even though it was cool outside, that
Yeah.
courtroom was like there was a furnace
Right.
going inside that courtroom. And then I think we found out while we were there that they weren't up to date on some of the standards they have to keep.
Yeah.
So now they're going to have to find a new place to hold certain trials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the
until they
courtroom,
can fix it.
the big courtroom, which is courtroom one, was damaged. I think by the rain, and also it's not what's called ADA compliant, American
That's what I
Disabilities
was, yeah,
Act.
that's what I was.
And so they're going to have to do some renovations there for like the next 2 months. It's really sad state. I love that courthouse. It's a beautiful courthouse, and the county has just not maintained it.
It's so funny because they all know Sean, even though he hasn't been there, in
I haven't worked there in
years.
10 years. Yeah, I haven't worked there. I haven't worked there. I mean, I've been around, but not like the way I was in the building.
Yeah.
So,
So like
yeah.
you said, it was raining, and he had this rolling cart with all the file in it, and he went to go get his car because you park. The free parking lot is like way around the
Yeah,
corner.
it's Martin's. Martin's
Yeah, it's
parking lot
Martin's
is
parking lot.
it's the county parking lot. That's what the county's work. Hey, good for Joseph though. I hope he gets money from that. I mean, I hope he
Of
does.
course, everyone that gets out of trial wants to go drink at Martin's when they're
Yeah,
done.
he gets a double whammy there. He gets the county probably leases the parking spot from him. I would imagine. I imagine he doesn't give that for free.
But our second day, you went to go get the car because it was raining.
Yeah.
And I stayed there, and it was so funny because the people at the front were just messing with me, and they said, "Now I know Sean's not expecting you to walk down there in the rain like that. Like, we're gonna have to tell him." I'm glad he went to go get the car. I said, "Well, I made him. I'm the brains of this operation." And they started laughing and said, one of them said, "I told y'all owe me $100. I told y'all she was the brains of the operation."
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they were funny. They were happy to see him, and
Yeah, it was fun. Those people are great. The courthouse is like one big family, and people have worked there for years. Down to the circuit clerk's office. I know everybody down there. Zach Wallace, the circuit clerk. I've known him.
he's so awesome.
I think I've known him since college. He's a couple years older than me, and he was at Millsaps too. Everybody.
He's older than you.
Yeah.
He looks way younger than you.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah, he does. Right. Yeah. I know he is. He's a couple years older than me. I
Zach,
think.
you look way younger.
Yeah,
than Sean.
yeah. He doesn't have all the gray. What's we call it?
He does.
I know he looks young.
He looks like a kid.
Yeah. So he's been around, and I mean, everybody, the bailiffs have been around. Circuit judges have known them forever. Most of the prosecutors still, I guess. Some of them, obviously changed out over the years.
Yeah, I guess I can't be ugly to them.
Yeah, Lindsay was kind of rude to somebody, and we're not going to get into that, but too much. But she has to learn how to keep promotions at a 3 and not a fucking 10. Because that's not what's supposed to happen. It's a professional thing. And
well, I was professional enough.
Yeah, I'm just.
Look, I'm protective.
Yeah, she. That's a good thing. She really cared about our client a lot, and
I believe that he's innocent. Yep. I truly believe he's innocent.
And and so and you were protective. That's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to protect your client, and we put on the best defense we could, and luckily they did not come to a guilty verdict. It was a mistrial.
Yeah, they did not. So, I mean, I think he's 21 or something. He's not a kid, but I felt like he was a kid. I guess I'm so old at this point that I felt like a 21-year-old like my kid.
Yeah.
And I guess that nature in me just came out, and I just wanted to defend him. It may have been different if I felt that he was guilty and not innocent, but I really felt he was innocent and didn't deserve what he was being, what they were given. And
right. See, and that's why Lindsay is maybe not a lawyer, because I don't care whether you did it or not. Like that's like, I don't care. And I'm with her. I think he was innocent too. I'm just saying, I don't care if like other clients or whatever come to me. Like, that's not my job, is the way I look at it. My job is not to judge whether you did it. Like, that's not it.
See,
and
I don't know if I would have been as passionate if I had thought the person actually did it.
Well, see, that doesn't affect me. Like, I'm more like, I just want to win, regardless. I just want to win. I don't know.
You heartless lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like,
I just care about people.
It's kind of like when you go to a doctor. I mean, the doctor's not supposed to judge what kind of person you are. They're supposed to operate. And, like, if they have to do an operation on you. So that's why I kind of look at it, like, whether they did it or they didn't do it, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, it doesn't make me fight any harder. I'm going to fight for them all equally as hard.
Yeah, and see, here's my argument to that. It's like, if you fight for a murderer or someone who has 20 million DUIs.
I've fought for many of those people, and
they come out and a guy that you have gotten off on 20 million DUIs is out on the street and hits me and kills me because he's drunk.
But see, the thing is, that's why, again, I don't look at it. It's up to the state to prove that they're guilty. That's not my job. My job is to.
But if you know they're true,
But that's not my job. That's why. Well, then that's what I'm saying. Like, you couldn't do the criminal defense world because that's just the way it is.
No, I couldn't do the lawyer world. Period.
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at it that way.
I'm good at looking at I love true crime. You know this.
Yeah.
All women do, I think. I mean, I'm good at looking at the evidence and putting, a story together and looking at the details and trying to find a way to make it make sense.
Right.
But I don't know that I could do what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to John Gotti thing on Netflix. It's actually really good. I think it's called Get Gotti if anybody wants to see it. And there's one, they interviewed some of his defense lawyers, and one of them talked about representing people, and she was a female lawyer, and she put it the best I ever heard. She said, sometimes I don't even ask my clients if they did it. And they asked her, why do you say that, ma'am? She's like, because I don't give a fuck. And I was like, you know what? That's the way I feel. Like, I don't care. Like, that's not my job to care. My job is to give you the best defense that I can. And whether you to check whether the state has enough evidence to convict you. If they do, and I advise you of that, and there's a plea negotiations, and it's my job to get you the best plea deal that I can do. It's not. If I was to worry about whether they did it, I don't think I could do this. Like, that would just impede me from being able to do this.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I get it. I've got other attorney friends. My good friend Mindy. She and I used to have the same. I was like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how can you represent someone you know is guilty? And it's not for me.
But I think
I couldn't sleep at night.
The flip side on that is when I was an assistant DA, I would constantly worry. Now, most of the time, I'm like, these guys are really guilty, like they totally did it. But there's sometimes you get a little nervous, like, because I mean, I think it'd be worse to convict an innocent person than to get off a guilty person. I think 100% way worse.
You think even if that guilty person immediately goes out and ruins a family or kills
I do, because
or shoots up a school, or I mean, think of
I
it
do
like that. Like, I mean, how many lives how many innocent lives could be taken from a guilty person that should have been locked up, than an innocent person who was.
But that's someone that didn't do it. That just like Anthony Fox. So we just went through Anthony Fox.
Look, I get it.
Like, that guy's life was severely hurt over something that he didn't do. I think that's way worse as an innocent person.
Well, and I kept asking you if they convict our client, the one we had last week, and then we are able to somehow come back and appeal and prove him innocent. What are they going to do? What kind of reparations are they going to give these guilty clients who've been locked up?
It's not reparations. That's not the appropriate way to put that.
I mean, just sounded like the right word.
That's not the right word. There's a wrongfully convicted statute, and I think the max is like $500,000. I believe that's right. I looked at it.
So they just automatically get that,
No,
or that's the max?
That's the max.
So they can't get more than that.
No, like what it is they get, I believe it's $50,000 per year of incarceration. I think that's what I have to double check that, but that's what I remember last time I looked at it.
But what if they made more than that at their own job?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying this is then talk to your legislature that you're up there all the time with, and maybe they can increase it. But I'm just saying this is what the law is currently. I believe the max is $500,000, at 50,000 a year per year incarceration. I believe that's correct. So I mean, so at 10 years, you hit the max, like you're in jail 10 years. But that's in situations where you're wrongfully convicted, which is very rare, where they actually prove someone's wrongfully convicted.
That they prove it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I think like the case of like Kennedy Brewer that we watched the documentary on Netflix. In Columbus.
Mm-hmm. And there's that one in Winona.
Yeah, I believe Curtis Flowers got the money
right?
too, and so did Anthony. Got paid as well. I believe that's right. I think he got for those couple years he was in jail. I think he got some money.
I think it was like undisclosed, maybe.
I don't know what it was, but I think that's what I saw in the news or something.
I don't know.
And I never asked him about that. I just think that's what happened.
Well, yeah, I think they deserve to pay him.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. No, I think
he's owed it.
No, I mean, I think like I would change the law. Like if you get wrongfully convicted and you're in jail for like 20 years, like just give you like $5 million. Like we fucked up. Like here's your $5 million.
But how do you even put a money amount on the time that was lost with your children, with your spouse?
But it's got to be more than $50,000 a year, or a max of like $500,000 for that kind of like emotional devastation.
Yeah.
But that's that's Mississippi for you. It's like that makes sense to me that the state would do that have it so low a figure. Now I don't know what other states are doing. I have to look into that, but it's way too low. But it's also, it's not like they couldn't say, okay, we'll give you a max of $5 million, because how many people, I'd like to know the numbers. How many people in the last 20 years have been proven they were wrongfully convicted? Like 10? You know what I mean? It's only a ton.
And once you finally are able to prove it, it's been so many years, and so many people have forgotten about you. And then you have to enter into life that you're not used to living in. Mm-hmm. If it goes that long, it's just like, I don't know that there is a dollar amount that's worthy of that kind of pain and suffering, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I just, I think that's something they could definitely change, though, for sure.
And it became so much more real to me, Sean, last week, when it was like, this is my life.
Yeah, it's serious stuff.
He's an adult. He's 21 or 21, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. But to me, he's a kid who has his whole life ahead of him.
Right.
We saw a supportive family show up.
Yeah, great family.
A mom who cared. And I just thought to myself, like, it is so important. You can't half-ass do something like this in your position as his defense attorney, even though it's one that you're appointed to, and you're a public defender. Yeah. You still have to fight like hell, because you're his only chance.
It's a lot. When the jury came back and then we thought they had a verdict.
I thought I was gonna throw up.
My anxiety got up so bad. I was like, remember Robert was in the hallway. He's like, do you need a Xanax or something? Because I think he had one.
I need to go throw up.
Because he has I was like, no. He was kidding, but he wasn't kidding. But I'm just saying just making a joke. I was like, no, I don't need a Xanax. Whatchamacallit. So anyway, but
I think I would have lost. I mean, I think I would have been highly upset. I wouldn't have been able to control my tears if they had come back with a guilty verdict.
Yeah, I was, but my anxiety was getting up pretty bad, and it just.
Because if you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
And he is innocent, as I believe he is. If he truly is, and you don't do your job to the best of your ability, and he goes to jail for the rest of his life, then how do you, that's horrible thought to me. Like that's the scariest thing I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that way it would weigh on you, and like I was just saying before, like I think it weighs on you both ways. Like I used to weigh, like the thought of doing that as a prosecutor, like wrongfully convicting someone, would really like weigh on me. Like, could that happen? And there was a couple cases here that and I would dismiss a bunch of things where I'm like, maybe he's guilty, but I don't know. That's the question I think you have to ask yourself when you're in that role, the prosecutor role. It's like, if you're saying I don't know, that's not good enough. For me. Like, if there's an I don't know that's coming in your mind, then you need to let that son of a bitch go. Like, you can't.
And not.
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's a lot of people that don't do that, right? Not go forward with the case, and but I think there's a lot of people that don't do that. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the majority, but I mean, I think that happens, and it's usually, if you do that doubt if you have doubt in your own mind and you're prosecuting somebody, you need to just let it go, because you got a big responsibility there too.
Yeah.
You got big responsibilities on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the responsibility of the state to make sure they have a strong enough case, and not just because they're giving somebody a deal to testify. And I think I got to learn a little bit about that side of it with Catherine and Michael when we went through the Carly Gregg trial, and were able to talk to them a good bit about that and what was going on in that case. And I just think the world of both of those two, but they had what they needed, and they were sure of what they were attempting to
Yeah, I
convict
think
someone.
there was no question in that case that Carly Gregg did it.
Yeah,
You know, right?
yeah.
I mean, that was pretty, like, she did it. It was, you know, I think she obviously had Bridget Todd, as we talked about numerous times, was completely inept,
Yeah.
and you know that girl. I think God, I
She
really feel
needed
like,
a public defender. Is what
yeah,
she needed.
yeah. I think there was, you know, I heard that they were going to appoint a few. They got some great public defenders over in Rankin County, and I think they were going to appoint some. They should have, because I think she would
She
have
actually had one initially.
Yeah, she would have got a better outcome. It was definitely, it was just unfortunate. I think that case, you know, is maybe something that's reviewed by the Supreme Court. I mean, it's going to be reviewed, obviously.
I was ready to pull a Bridget Todd and call a Brady violation last week.
Yeah. Yeah. But so it just, I think that's something that would, you know, hopefully, maybe that. I mean, I'm not like, I think Catherine Michael did such a great job, so I'm not rooting for it to get reversed or anything. But I'm just speaking about as to Bridget, was so sad to see that kind of somebody get that kind of representation, which is pretty bad in my opinion.
Someone who had not even been through discovery, and
she
it was
just
bad.
and you
really
saw
bad.
you got to see the discovery process and how like cumbersome that is.
Yeah.
And how you're going through making sure you got everything, and
I can't tell you how many times I've been through every single page of that file to make sure there was nothing that we missed or that I looked over, that you looked over,
right?
So that we have everything in our at our disposal to help defend this guy who I believe is innocent.
Yeah, I mean, and we did, and you know, it just and so that wasn't an issue in our case at all. But I think you know, obviously, and I don't think it was an issue in the Carly Gregg case. I think Bridget Todd just didn't look at the.
She's just an idiot.
She just didn't want to look at the discovery, so that was a problem, of course. And that's what's important, to have, you know, standards and, you know, good representation. Look who you're hiring. I think in that case she had volunteered to represent Carly, I believe.
Well, she showed up and said she was the representation.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to check on, you know, I mean, you don't want to. I mean, yeah, like I have a lot of conversations with people about this, because people call me and inbox me all the time, and they're like, "Hey, man, I want to sue so and so." I don't do that. Like that is not my specialty. It's like when you go to a doctor, there's somebody, maybe a vascular surgeon, somebody maybe an orthopedic surgeon, somebody, you know, has got some other specialty, pediatric plastic surgery, whatever it is, and they're good at that. Now they may know general medicine, and I've had a lot of doctor friends, and they explain this to me, and they may be able to tell you, okay, well, this is possibly this. And I can do that, but I'm not the person. If you've got like some multi-million-dollar lawsuit, don't call me, because I'm not the guy for that.
If you go through a divorce or a child custody case, call Sean, because he wants all those cases.
If you are going through anything related to family law, never call me ever. Like, please lose my fucking phone number.
I was only kidding.
And I get a lot of those calls, and you know that, constantly about that. People are saying, well, what about this and what about that? My child support issues. I don't know shit about that, and I don't want to know shit about that. Like, I used to call, and I used to work at the Hinds County Courthouse in the Chancery Court where family law happens. I used to call the sidewalk up to the Chancery Court the Boulevard of Broken Dreams, because like you were more likely to get fucking killed in the Chancery Court with all the family law stuff than you were with the defendants in circuit court, because people, like the criminal defendants, when I was prosecuting, they kind of knew what they did, and they're like, whatever. And it was never really, I never felt threatened there. But across the street, man, there's some people like, they're mad. The divorces and the child custody and the support, like, it's crazy. And so but so I don't. So yeah, you got to call somebody that knows how to do that. I'm not that guy to call to do that. So it's kind of like, but I think people generally think, oh well, lawyers, you must know how to sue somebody. You must know how to do a divorce. And you must nope. Now, if you kill somebody, call me. I can help you out.
Wait a minute. No. If you're innocent and being blamed for killing somebody,
right,
call him. Then I'll work on then I'll help.
Yeah, I'm good at that. I mean, you rob a liquor store, call me. You know, you sell a bunch of cocaine.
If you're going to give us the vodka you took.
Yeah, right. You know, if you sell a bunch of cocaine, call me. I'm good at that. I'm really good at that stuff. Drugs. Well, yeah, I do. I take plenty of those cases. You know, if you do anything criminal, whatever it is, I can help you out. But if you do other stuff, I cannot help you out. And don't call me for that, because I don't. Or call me.
The mayor of Jackson, you get on a yacht.
Well, that's criminal, but I'm not helping him. But I can, if you do call me, I can refer you to people that are good at what they do. And I think that's something that always folks understand. So this is a long way of saying what we're really talking about was Bridget Todd. I think if you are charged with like a criminal offense, you really need to vet who you're hiring, because a lot of times when you see a lot of lawyers, what they'll do is they're like, oh, well, I do a little family law and I do a little criminal defense. And like, okay, that's okay for some people. But
no, Bridget Todd wanted fame.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. Like, let's say you're going to do a DUI or you're going to do a dope possession case or whatever. I think, you don't maybe need the most experience in the world to handle a lot of those things. But when you're going to handle a capital murder case, like and was Carly Gregg charged with capital murder? I can't remember. Do you remember? I don't remember.
I don't honestly.
Regardless, murder, capital murder. If you're charged with something like that, that's that serious and that requires that much like experience and skill, you can't just hire the lawyer off the street to do that. You got to
Or the
hire
one
somebody.
that walks in and says, "Hey, I want to represent you."
Yeah, I mean, and there's plenty of lawyers out here that are really experienced with murder cases that I know that are great. That I would call if it were me. If I killed somebody, I know I know they're going to
But
list of
she's
people.
not going to do.
I'm not going to do that, but I know who I'd call because I know they have the experience and stuff. So, and that was unfortunate with Carly Gregg's case because somebody got involved. Now Kevin Camp's got the co-counsel there, so that wasn't.
He was worse than she was.
Well, I mean, he does have a lot of experience, so I'm not going to talk negatively about him. But but she was seen to be lead counsel and had no business doing that.
No.
And that's and that it's not something you kick off the training wheels to start on your first murder case.
Just,
you know,
that whole
you just
situation was so strange. I mean, even like saying wanting her to come live with you and wanting to adopt.
Yeah,
that was just
weird.
messed up. I feel bad for the whole family that they got put into that situation where she all of a sudden became the counsel.
And now she lives in Utah.
Yeah, she's moved.
She moved to Utah. I mean, I think she probably left because it was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Like after this
I'm sure
debacle.
She felt like a fool.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you'll never see me like go off into a, some big high profile divorce case because I look like a freaking idiot because I don't know how to do that stuff. Like, I have no idea. I don't even know what the divorce law is. Like, I think like
you should. You've been divorced.
Yeah, I've been divorced twice. I should know, but they all have been ID divorces, so it's not been a problem. But I think like if you cheat on somebody, you get a divorce, and like if you beat them up. But other than that, like I really don't know. I think there's like 12 or 13 grounds of divorce. I don't know because I don't do that. But so that's the same thing with a murder case. Like you just don't you don't kick off the training wheels and say, you know what, I'm going to just try my first.
I think her first one was that Beth.
But then it was an aggravated. Yeah. But that was different. That was an aggravated DUI, which is a different case.
But she still lost that.
Right, but I think that lady was pretty guilty. That was the
lady. So was Carly. I mean, she picks the guilty ones to go.
Well, I mean, that happens when you do this. I mean, but I think, the Beth Ann White thing. I mean, didn't she like run the light? She had liquor bottles everywhere. I think that's right. It was pretty.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was a white lady that was super drunk.
And killed somebody.
Probably should have pled guilty. I would think.
Or took a deal.
Yeah, that's different. That's called ag DUI. Then the max is 25 years on that.
So it was criminal instead of family.
Yeah, it's criminal, right? I think well, I mean, a little different than actual regular murder case. It's a little different. I mean, somebody did die as a result of that, but it's not necessarily like a,
I mean, I think both of them were murder, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that as a lawyer. I'm saying that as an everyday person, we see both of those as murder.
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities there, of course. It's more, I would go more akin to like a manslaughter, like a culpable negligence manslaughter. It's not a murder, capital murder, that kind of stuff.
Speaking of culpable, like I've gotten, I've told Sean, like, we've got to start researching this Christian Andriakis case.
I'm not getting into that one. I haven't listened to that in a while, but so I mean, that was, and I think that's why she probably moved to Utah because it was a good thing for her
to get away from him.
Mosey on out.
She took a lot of heat,
deservedly.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, she deserved it. But she also came back with, she just wouldn't shut up, which made it her look worse.
And another thing is, if you notice too, I think she could have. She didn't shut up. That was the biggest thing. After the trial, she made herself look even worse. And even during the trial, she acted kind of like an asshole with the prosecutors. Like,
what she did to Catherine?
Yeah, and then with Michael showing her where the file was located, I think like the thing also being like when whether you're defending someone or prosecuting and you're trying a case against each other, you got to have decorum there too. And some people don't, some people do. It's a lot easier when both parties have got a bunch of decorum because, like, I used to try cases against From Sellers, who's a good friend of mine. I've told you about him before. Great lawyer, who Carly, I think, was going to be appointed to, and I'd hire him in a heartbeat if I killed somebody. We used to try cases. It was so easy because we both knew the rules and we didn't fight. We're like, either that was coming to evidence or it wasn't. We weren't like trying to do something stupid and make an ass of ourselves, either one of us, because we both were very experienced and knew what we were like. Okay, From be like, okay, this is going to come in. I'm like, yeah, man, it's going to come in. Or I'd show him a piece of evidence. And he's like, because if you know the rules, and you know how this works, then it's very simple because you're just doing a process. And there's a big rule book that you have to follow how things come in. Now, there's some things you're going to fight over here and there for sure. But when somebody doesn't have that kind of experience, you saw that in Carly Gregg, where Michael and Catherine are real experience, and they're like probably sitting there like, what the fuck, man? Like this lady doesn't know what she's doing.
I know Catherine was like, that's the maddest I've ever been in a courtroom, and being able to control herself was huge.
I've tried cases against nobody quite that demented like her.
She's pretty demented.
But several
I know personally how demented she
but
was.
several lawyers that didn't know the rules when I was a prosecutor, especially that like it was like, come on, man. I mean, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you don't need to be here. There was a lot of that will frustrate the shit out of you, when you're there, but never to the level of like, I don't know that I tried something against. Well, that's not true. A couple of people I thought were absolutely fucking crazy. Like, there's a few names. But not maybe to the. I think she was on like a different level of nuttiness that I observed,
Yeah,
or saw.
yeah, and I'll just say I've been saying that for years.
Yep, yep. You're always right. You're always right. But yeah, it was a great experience. So, and then Lindsay's working with me. So we're gonna we do the politics thing, but we're gonna talk about these trials because apparently
Yeah.
people like listen to true crime
I
stuff.
saw those women out there. We just love to listen to people.
Yeah.
About people being murdered for some reason.
I went to Los Angeles like a little over a year ago to shoot a documentary for Hulu of a case I tried back in 2010.
Death in the Dorms Part 2 is on Hulu if y'all want to go watch it.
Yeah, and the most funny thing, I was out there and I was talking to the guys that were like making the documentary, and they took me to this like house. I was thinking I was going to like some film studio, but no, it was like they had like a
It was a really random background.
yeah, it was like a house, and I was like, okay, am I going to get killed here? I don't know. And so they were shooting it, and I'm like, and they sold it to Hulu, and I'm like, God, all these guys are making, these kids, they were young, they were like in their 20s, and they were like all making money off of like my life's work and other people's life's work and all these murders, and I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, this is crazy. You guys got a racket here, but there's so many of it out there. I mean, there's so much of it.
But it's watched. People
love death.
That.
I don't know what it is. They just love it. I don't know.
I think for me, it's always been wanting to understand how someone can do something like that. I think that's where the obsession lies with me in my mind. It's like I want to understand the school shooter. I want to understand the person who killed his girlfriend and put her in the trunk of the car while he went on a date with another girl. I want to understand how their mind got to that point so that we can fix it in the future.
Well, I mean, and a lot of times what we see on Netflix and Hulu are these like crazy scenarios, which are like 1% or 0.5% of what a murder is. And I've told Lindsay this million times, like majority of the murders that you see are going to be a domestic situation or somebody
Well, you say that, but when your only sibling has been brutally murdered the way mine was, it's like you have a.
Well, there is other ones, but I'm just saying, based upon everything I've ever tried, prosecuting or defending, it's a domestic number one kind of situation. What I don't mean domestically necessarily you're always dating, but there's maybe somebody that you knew that's a friend, that you get angry with or whatever. I've had that come up on several occasions. Family members kill each other. So it's not always just like a dating or marriage relationship, but there's a lot of that. There's a ton of that. Yeah. And that's probably the number one. We just saw
the new Gabby Polito documentary that came out. Yeah.
Because, and then because that's the situations where you get mad enough. Trust me, you get mad enough to kill someone. You like literally.
Look, this is being recorded.
I mean, so that's what happens, and people get angry, and and there's there's usually a pattern of domestic violence, and leads to that, and that's what happens. That's why I always say, like, if he's beating you, go, because it's going to end up one way, and that's going to be you in your grave. I mean, because that's
or either you're finally going to leave, and they're going to kill you for leaving,
like the lady at Nissan recently.
Right? Yeah, that was pregnant, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, like these guys don't reform. Like they end up, if they're hitting you at all, there's something wrong with them, and it's going to end badly. And I've seen it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. A lot. It's just enough for one lifetime. But then I mean, you'll see like a drug deal gone bad. An armed robbery. Turns into a murder. So things like that.
Or the sale of a gun. Something like that. Gang related. When you're talking about a city like Jackson, especially.
It's rare when it's like some just random murder, like the James Hutto guy prosecuted. Who killed that was of all the cases ever, that was the most random kind of murder where he killed an elderly woman here in Hinds County, and then he went to Alabama and killed another one. That was, of all of them, I've never seen anything like that, and it was just kind of like he was basically a serial killer almost. I don't know if you would call him that, but he definitely liked killing elderly women. And but that was like the rarity case of the hundreds of them that I handled that you'd see that. So it's usually not that. Usually, like I said, it's a domestic situation. So if you're in a bad domestic situation, get the fuck out, because it's going to go bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So. That's the best advice you can give. And pivoting from that, I want to say this. I have not publicly made any sort of statement about the drama that went down last week in the Mississippi legislature with the Republican Party. But I do want to say something, and I don't think that what happened was fair when concerning Senator Jeremy England. And if you don't know, Sean, give him a recap of what happened.
But I got to give him. I'm not following this politics. I was in trial. Like, I mean, I just saw
Well, you know what
Facebook
happened. Yeah.
posts.
Well, we saw our governor
Um,
who kind of turned on a Republican senator
Mhm.
for dropping a bill that would give people early voting privileges. Now, regardless of how you feel about that bill, I thought it was extremely wrong to call him out the way that he did. And I'm going to catch some flack for this, I'm sure,
Mhm.
but I'm going to say it because I think it needs to be said. Um, Jeremy England dropped some incredibly conservative legislation this session, and I'm thankful that he did that. And I just want to say that I'm sitting here looking at the legislation that he dropped this session, and every single bit of it looks to me to be conservative and something I would agree with. He's done a lot concerning parental rights. He's done a lot concerning, he had a parental consent for minors' healthcare treatment bill. He just had so much that I resonated with, and I was proud that someone took that upon themselves to put their name on a piece of legislation like that, especially in the Senate under Delbert.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that he's done what he's done the last couple of years. He helped us get the Safer Act through last session, and I don't think it's fair or right, the criticism that he's come under. I think it's wrong.
Well,
completely wrong.
It's like Clay and I were talking about on radio last Friday. It's like Tate's like a conservative NPC bot. Like he didn't get his software upload, like that everybody's for early voting now. Like he didn't get the memo or something, the TPS report.
I talked earlier about the convention, the Republican Party convention that we had here in the state of Mississippi, and Laura Trump was here, who's the chair of the Republican Party across the country, the GOP, and she stood there and said she encouraged everyone on stage with Tate standing right there.
Yeah.
Our governor, Tate Reeves, standing right there. She encouraged everyone to early vote if they could.
Yeah, I don't understand why you went after Jeremy. Jeremy seems like a really nice guy, family guy.
He and I have had our differences in the past when it comes to who we supported for this past lieutenant governor's race. Forget all that.
Mhm.
That
guy.
No. Well, let's not go there. I
mean,
don't even want to discuss that because I just don't think it's fair, the attacks that Jeremy has come under.
Well, he attacked him too, though.
Right, and I don't think any of it's fair.
And
I don't want to attack anyone. I don't want to attack our governor. I don't want to attack any other people. I know what the road you're going down. I don't want to attack anyone.
I'd love to go down that road.
I'm sure you would. I don't want to attack anyone though, because I think the attacks need to stop. This is causing division within the Republican Party that we don't need. I'm sure you're like laughing at that, but I just don't think our Senator Jeremy England did not deserve the abuse that he took last week at all. I disagree wholeheartedly that happened.
Well, I think Tate took the bad end of that. I think the people kind of like, you could see the reactions were like,
I lost some respect for some people.
They were like, "Shut up, dude! Like, what's wrong with this?" Like, I mean, it's all like Republicans all say, "It's like, what's wrong with you? Like, stop it." It's like Tate Reeves and like McDaniel were the only ones against England. I mean, and Melanie Sojourner. Like everybody else in the state's like, "This is stupid. Everybody shut up. We want it." I mean, that's what it kind of came across to me. I think Tate ended up looking really dumb out of this, but
he even went so far as he dropped legislation about dyslexia therapy scholarships. It was almost like part of school choice, which I'm in full support of. But the CPS laws that we personally are wrong and how they're able to be abused in the state. He dropped a bill stating that the people who are falsely accusing someone to CPS, they have consequences. Like he put out some great legislation. I just don't think it's right that anyone attacked him the way that they did last week. I think it was wrong.
Yeah, it was stupid. And I think, like I said, I think Tate ended up looking dumb. I think 90% of the people you ask out there feel the same way.
Well, Jeremy made a post that said, the last post he made talking about it said, I signed up for this job, but my family's at home and I have to leave my family. He lives on the coast. He has to leave his family to come here during the legislative session. And, he's now they're all of a sudden at risk. Some crazy person is going to go hurt his family.
Yeah.
Because they think he's done something wrong.
Politics
I don't think
sucks.
he did it.
Like,
Politics are dirty. It's so dirty. It's
it's
such a
terrible.
dirty, dirty, dirty game.
Yeah, like I said, I think Jeremy seems. I don't know him. I know people that do know him, other than Lindsay, that have told me that he's a really great guy and like just a really wonderful human being.
He's worked with me
Whatever.
the last 2 years on stuff, and I appreciate him so much for that because we did have a huge falling out prior to that based on the elections that were going on. I really appreciate his help and work on some bills that I care about. I really do.
Yep. So unfortunately, well, again, I think Jeremy England was the winner of the week. Tate was the loser. I think I think also, unfortunately, Delbert is not the winner for the week either. Not
as we pray for him tonight and
pray
that he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
Really, I really do.
I do too. I do too. I like I said, nothing bad to say about Delbert. I know.
Like I'll tell you, Delbert's son was the chief resident of orthopedic surgery at UAB when I worked there, right out of X-ray school, and he was the kindest, most patient resident that we had. I worked nights, and so we didn't go to surgery a lot. So the C-arm X-ray equipment they use in surgery wasn't used. We didn't use it a lot, so we were unfamiliar with it. And he was just the best one to work with. He's married to my elementary school principal's daughter. Great family.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree with Delbert on so much.
Yeah, I mean,
I do hope he's okay.
Yeah, Delbert did some work for my family's company back in the '90s. So
He was
my
working for
dad's.
that abortion clinic.
I don't. Good for him. I'm from pro-choice, so good for him. God, thanks, Delbert. So I hope he's okay. Nothing. I just think again the political reality has changed today about what's going to go on, and I do again think it's comical about all the well wishes from people, the opponents. I thought that was really funny.
All of a sudden they're friends. Everybody's friends.
Yeah, like Chad's like, I love you, and like.
Lynn said, my friend is strong.
Oh no, I saw Lynn like, oh God, Delbert, somebody, both of them secretly like, pull the plug.
No, we're not saying
pull
that.
the plug.
We're not saying that.
Yeah, that's what they were thinking. I'm just saying the quiet part out loud. We're not saying that. Like I said, I like Delbert fine. But I'm just thinking that they're all like Marshall Ramsey's next cartoon is gonna be them pulling the
plug. You're gonna give him ideas. You stop that.
That's what it's gonna do. So anyway, but we hope he's okay. And I think we are been on for like over an hour. So I'm gonna be on with Clay tomorrow, so y'all tune into that too.
Yeah.
And anyway, and
our show will start soon.
Yeah, definitely.
We keep saying that, but really soon.
Yeah, we're working on some things.
We're getting it going. It's gonna happen soon. So, but if you own a business and you want to sponsor the radio show,
please let one of us know. Hit us on Facebook. All right, everybody have a good night.
Bye, y'all.